chance encounter. Natalie Bennett smoothed down her borrowed evening gown as she stepped into the grand ballroom of the Riverside Hotel. The charity auction was far beyond her usual world of paint swatches and fabric samples. But her best friend had insisted she needed a night out. At 27, Natalie felt like she was drowning in student loan debt, while her interior design business barely stayed afloat. The sparkling chandeliers and champagne flutes seemed to mock her financial struggles. Before we begin, I kindly request that you please subscribe to my channel. Now, please share in the comments where you're watching from. She found herself standing near a display of donated artwork when she noticed him, tall, with dark hair that caught the light and eyes the color of deep amber. He was watching her from across the room. Their gazes locked, and Natalie felt her breath catch in her throat. He moved through the crowd with confident grace, never breaking eye contact. The mysterious stranger, "You look like you'd rather be anywhere else," he said, his voice smooth and warm like honey. Up close, he was even more striking, with sharp cheekbones and a slight smile that suggested he knew secrets worth keeping. "Is it that obvious?" Natalie laughed nervously, tucking a strand of auburn hair behind her ear. "I'm not really the charity gala type. Neither am I, actually. I'm Julian Westbrook." He extended his hand, and when their fingers touched, Natalie felt electricity shoot up her arm. "I own Westbrook Enterprises. Commercial real estate, mostly." They talked for over an hour, standing in that same spot, while the auction continued around them. Julian was attentive, asking about her design work, her dreams for her business, her struggles with finding high-paying clients. Natalie found herself opening up in ways she normally never did with strangers. There was something magnetic about him, something that made her feel both comfortable and electrified at the same time. An outrageous proposition. 3 days later, Julian showed up at her tiny studio apartment. Natalie answered the door in paint-splattered jeans and an oversized sweater, completely unprepared for visitors. "Julian, how did you find my address? I have my resources." He held up a leather portfolio. "May I come in? I have a proposal for you." Sitting on her worn couch, Julian laid out documents that made Natalie's head spin. "I need a wife, Natalie, for 6 months. It's complicated, involving family trusts and business requirements. But I need to be married by the end of this month, or I lose control of my company." "You're insane," Natalie whispered, staring at the contract in front of her. "We barely know each other. I'm offering you $200,000. Plus, I'll invest an additional $300,000 in your design business, give you connections to every high-end client in the city, and provide you with a portfolio of completed projects that will make you one of the most sought-after designers in the state." The decision that changes everything. Natalie's hands trembled as she held the papers. $500,000 total. It would erase her debt, save her business, give her the future she'd been desperately working toward. But marriage, to a man she'd spent one evening with. "Why me?" she finally asked. Julian's expression softened. "Because when I talked to you at that gala, it was the first genuine conversation I'd had in years. You're honest, hardworking, and you don't want anything from me except a fair deal. Plus," he added with that slight smile, "you're incredibly beautiful, and I won't mind being seen with you." Natalie spent the next 2 days agonizing over the decision. She called her mother, who thought she was being reckless. She consulted her best friend, who surprisingly told her to go for it. She made lists of pros and cons, paced her apartment until she wore a path in the carpet, and lay awake both nights staring at her ceiling. On the 3rd day, she called Julian. "I have conditions," she said when he answered. "We maintain separate bedrooms. This is purely business, and when the 6 months are up, we part as friends with no complications." "Agreed," Julian said, though something in his voice suggested he wasn't entirely convinced it would be that simple. "So, is that a yes?" Natalie took a deep breath, thinking of her struggling business, her mounting debt, and the strange pull she felt toward this mysterious man. "Yes, I'll marry you." 2 weeks later, Natalie stood in a private courthouse wearing a simple cream-colored dress about to become Mrs. Julian Westbrook. As she walked toward him, seeing him in his perfectly tailored suit, she wondered if she had just made the best decision of her life or the biggest mistake. Either way, there was no turning back now. Promises and uncertain tithe courthouse ceremony was brief and businesslike, witnessed only by Julian's lawyer and Natalie's best friend, Claire. When the judge pronounced them husband and wife, Julian leaned in to kiss her. It was supposed to be a simple, perfunctory kiss, but the moment his lips touched hers, Natalie felt the world tilt on its axis. The kiss was gentle yet possessive, sweet yet filled with an undercurrent of something deeper. When they pulled apart, Julian's amber eyes held hers with an intensity that made her knees weak. "Well, Mrs. Westbrook," he murmured, his thumb brushing across her cheek, "ready to start our new life together." The drive to his estate took 40 minutes, winding through tree-lined roads until they reached a stunning modern mansion overlooking the bay. Natalie had seen beautiful homes in her design work, but nothing compared to the sleek elegance of Julian's house. Floor-to-ceiling windows showcased breathtaking water views, and the interior was a masterpiece of minimalist luxury. Crossing the threshold. "Welcome home," Julian said, carrying her bags inside. He had insisted on the traditional threshold carrying, though Natalie had protested it was unnecessary for their arrangement. "Your suite is on the second floor, East Wing, completely private, as promised. Mine is in the West Wing." But as evening fell and they shared an unexpectedly comfortable dinner prepared by his chef, the physical distance between their wings felt increasingly arbitrary. They talked and laughed, discovering shared tastes in music and books, debating passionately about art and architecture. The chemistry between them was undeniable, crackling in the air like static electricity before a storm. The whispered confession after dinner. Julian walked Natalie to her suite. They stood in the doorway, neither quite ready to say goodnight. The hallway was dimly lit, creating an intimate atmosphere that made Natalie's heart race. "Natalie," Julian said softly, stepping closer, "there's something I need to tell you, something I should have mentioned before we got married." Her stomach tightened with anxiety. "What is it?" Julian ran his hand through his hair, a gesture she was learning meant he was nervous. "The reason I need to be married, it's not just about business trusts. My father passed away 6 months ago, and his will stipulates that I must be married to inherit his company. But there's more." He paused, his jaw clenching. "I was engaged before, 3 years ago. Her name was Victoria, and she was beautiful, ambitious, and completely wrong for me. She wanted the Westbrook name and fortune, not me. When I discovered she was having an affair with my business partner, it nearly destroyed me." Natalie's hand instinctively reached for his. "Julian, I'm so sorry. After that, I built walls," he continued, his thumb tracing circles on her palm. "I told myself I would never let anyone close again. That's why this arrangement seemed perfect. A marriage without emotional risk." He looked directly into her eyes, vulnerability raw on his face. "But then I met you at that gala, and something shifted. The way you laughed, the passion in your voice when you talked about design, the honesty in your eyes. I told myself I chose you for practical reasons, but the truth is, I was already falling for you before I ever made that proposal." A moment of truth. Natalie's breath caught in her throat. "Julian, we agreed this was just business." "I know what we agreed," he said, his free hand coming up to cup her face. "And if you want to keep things that way, I'll respect it. I'll stay in my wing, and we'll be business partners for 6 months. But I need you to know the truth. I need you to know that when I kissed you today, it wasn't just for show. And right now, standing here with you, all I can think about is kissing you again." The air between them felt charged with possibility and danger. Natalie knew she should step back, retreat to the safety of their agreement, protect her heart from inevitable complications. But looking into Julian's eyes, seeing the vulnerability and desire there, she found herself leaning closer instead. "Trust me," Julian whispered, echoing the words the judge had used during their vows. "Trust me with your heart, Natalie. I promise I'll guard it with my life." The choice that changes everything. Natalie's mind raced. This wasn't what she had signed up for, This was supposed to be simple, transactional, safe. But nothing about the way Julian looked at her felt safe. It felt dangerous and thrilling and absolutely terrifying. She thought about Victoria, about the walls he had built, about her own fears of not being enough. What if this ruins everything? She whispered. What if it makes everything better? Julian countered, his forehead resting against hers. What if this arrangement was just the universe's way of bringing us together? What if we're supposed to find something real in the middle of something fake? Her heart hammered against her ribs. Every logical part of her brain screamed warnings, but her heart was singing a different song. She thought about the connection they had shared at the gala, the easy conversation over dinner, the way his touch made her feel alive in ways she had never experienced. Unscared, she admitted. "So am I," Julian said with raw honesty. "I'm terrified, but I'm more scared of spending the next 6 months pretending I don't want to wake up next to you every morning." Natalie pulled back slightly to look at him fully. His expression was open, hopeful, and completely sincere. She thought about all the risks she had taken to build her business, all the leaps of faith required to pursue her dreams. Maybe love required the same courage. "Okay," she breathed. "Okay, let's see where this goes. But Julian, if we do this, if we make this real, you have to promise me something, anything. No more secrets, no more walls. If we're going to have a chance at something genuine, we have to be completely honest with each other." Julian smiled, the expression transforming his face from handsome to absolutely breathtaking. "I promise. Complete honesty, starting now." He pulled her closer, his hands settling on her waist. "Right now. I'm honestly desperate to kiss my wife." A new beginning. Their lips met this time. It was different from the courthouse kiss. This was a promise and a question and an answer all at once. Julian kissed her with a tenderness that made her chest ache, his hands gentle as they cradled her face. Natalie melted into him, her fingers tangling in his hair as the kiss deepened. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Julian rested his forehead against hers. "Stay with me tonight," he whispered. "Not because of any obligation, but because I don't want to let you go." Natalie nodded, beyond words. He took her hand and led her to the master suite. And as they crossed the threshold together, Natalie felt like they were finally beginning their real wedding night. The one where two people chose each other not because of contracts or convenience, but because of genuine connection and growing love. As Julian slowly unzipped her dress, his fingers trailing fire along her spine, Natalie realized that sometimes the best things in life came from the most unexpected places. She had agreed to a fake marriage for money and opportunity, but she was discovering something far more valuable. She was discovering what it felt like to be truly seen, truly wanted, and truly cherished by someone who had every reason to guard his heart, but was choosing to open it anyway. "No regrets?" Julian asked softly as her dress pulled at her feet. "No regrets," Natalie confirmed, pulling him close. "Just trust." And as they lost themselves in each other, the lines between business arrangements and real marriage blurred completely, leaving only two people discovering that sometimes the greatest risk leads to the greatest reward. Morning, a revelations. Natalie woke to sunlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows, and the warmth of Julian's arm draped across her waist. For a moment, she lay perfectly still, processing everything that had happened. She had married a stranger, broken all her own rules, and fallen into bed with a man she barely knew. Yet somehow, wrapped in his embrace, she felt safer than she had in years. Julian stirred beside her, his eyes opening to find her watching him. "Good morning, wife," he murmured, a sleepy smile crossing his face. "Having second thoughts, more like third and fourth thoughts," Natalie admitted with a nervous laugh. "But I'm still here, aren't I?" He pulled her closer, pressing a kiss to her temple. "You are, and I'm grateful for every moment." They spent the morning in comfortable domesticity, sharing breakfast on the terrace overlooking the bay. Julian told her more about his father's company, his dreams of expanding into sustainable development, his passion for architecture that mirrored her love of design. Natalie shared stories of growing up with a single mother who cleaned houses to put her through design school. Her determination to succeed despite the odds, facing the outside world. A peaceful bubble burst when Julian's phone rang. His expression darkened as he listened to whoever was on the other end. "My mother wants to meet you," he said after hanging up. "Today. She's at the family estate and demands we come for lunch." Demands. Natalie raised an eyebrow. Julian sighed, running his hand through his hair in that now familiar gesture. "Catherine Westbrook doesn't ask, she commands. And she's going to hate that I married someone she didn't handpick." The Westbrook family estate was even more imposing than Julian's home. A sprawling colonial mansion with manicured gardens and an air of old money superiority. Catherine Westbrook met them in the formal sitting room, every inch the society matriarch in her designer suit and pearls. Her cold blue eyes assessed Natalie like she was an unwelcome insect. "Judgment and defense. So you're the girl my son married, without consulting his family," Catherine said, her voice dripping with disdain. "An interior designer with no social connections, no family wealth, and no pedigree whatsoever. Mother," Julian's voice held a warning edge, "I'm someone who loves your son for who he is, not what he's worth." Natalie replied calmly, refusing to be intimidated. "And I'm someone who will stand by him regardless of whether I have your approval." Catherine's eyes narrowed. "How much did he pay you?" The question hung in the air like poison. Natalie felt her face flush, but before she could respond, Julian stood abruptly. "That's enough. Natalie is my wife, and you will treat her with respect or you won't see either of us again. Don't be dramatic, Julian. I'm simply protecting family interests. Everyone knows this marriage is suspicious. You barely know this girl, and suddenly you're married. There are already rumors circulating." United front. Julian took Natalie's hand, pulling her to her feet. "The only thing suspicious is your lack of faith in my judgment. Natalie is the best thing that's happened to me in years. And if you can't see that, it's your loss." They left the estate with Catherine's threats echoing behind them. In the car, Natalie felt tears threatening. "She's right, isn't she? Everyone's going to think I'm some gold digger who trapped you." Julian pulled over to the side of the road, turning to face her fully. "I don't care what anyone thinks. The only opinions that matter are yours and mine. Do you feel like you trapped me?" "No, but the contract, forget the contract," Julian interrupted. "That piece of paper doesn't define us anymore. What we have now is real, Natalie. You know it, and I know it. The rest is just noise, building something real." Over the following weeks, they proved Julian's words true. Despite Catherine's cold shoulder and the whispers among Julian's social circle, they built a genuine partnership. Julian gave Natalie her first major commission, renovating the headquarters of Westbrook Enterprises. She threw herself into the project with fierce determination, creating designs that were both innovative and practical. In the evenings, they cooked together in Julian's massive kitchen, laughing over burnt pasta and too much wine. They took long walks along the bay, talking about everything and nothing. They learned each other's habits, the way Julian liked his coffee black and strong, how Natalie hummed while she worked, the comfortable silence that fell between them feeling more intimate than words. The physical connection between them deepened as well. Every touch became a conversation, every kiss a promise. Julian was attentive and passionate, making Natalie feel desired in ways that went beyond the physical. He celebrated her successes, supported her through setbacks, and showed her daily what it meant to be truly partnered with someone. The threat returns 3 months into their marriage. Natalie arrived home to find Victoria Martinez, Julian's ex-fiancée, sitting in their living room. She was everything Natalie had imagined and worse, stunningly beautiful with cold calculation in her eyes. "You must be the replacement wife," Victoria said with a cruel smile. "Julian always did have a savior complex. Tell me, dear, did he mention that he keeps a copy of our engagement photo in his office desk?" Natalie felt her stomach drop, but she kept her composure. "What do you want, Victoria?" "I want Julian to remember who he really belongs with. This little arrangement of yours, it's temporary. Once he gets his inheritance secured, He'll realize he made a mistake choosing a nobody over someone from his own world. Before Natalie could respond, Julian's voice cut through the tension. "Get out of my house, Victoria." He stood in the doorway, his expression thunderous. "How dare you come here and speak to my wife that way?" Standing strong together, Victoria stood gracefully, still playing the protective husband. "How long before you realize she's just using you for your money, Julian?" "At least I was honest about what I wanted." "You were honest about nothing," Julian said coldly. "You cheated, you lied, and you tried to destroy me. Natalie is everything you could never be. She's genuine, talented, and she sees me as a person, not a bank account. Now leave before I call security." After Victoria left, Natalie turned to Julian with tears in her eyes. "Is it true about the photo?" Julian looked confused. Then understanding dawned. "I do have a photo in my desk of her destroying our relationship. I kept it as a reminder to never let someone manipulate me again. But after meeting you, I don't need it anymore." He crossed to her, taking her hands. "Victoria represents everything I left behind. You represent everything I want for my future." The transformation completeth at night. Lying in bed together, Julian traced patterns on Natalie's bare shoulder. "We're past the halfway point of our contract," he said quietly. "We need to talk about what happens when the 6 months are up." Natalie's heart clenched. She had been trying not to think about the expiration date looming over them. "What do you want to happen?" Julian rolled over to face her fully, his amber eyes serious. "I want to tear up that contract and make this marriage real in every sense. I want to wake up next to you for the rest of my life. I want to build a family with you, grow old with you, support your dreams and share mine with you. I want everything, Natalie. The question is, do you?" Tears streamed down her face as she nodded. "I want everything too. I love you, Julian. Not your money, not your connections, not the opportunities you've given me. Just you. The man who brings me coffee in my studio, who listens to my ideas like they matter, who holds me at night like I'm something precious." "You are precious," Julian whispered, kissing away her tears. "You're the most precious thing in my world." A new beginning to weeks later, they held a real wedding ceremony on the beach at sunset, surrounded by the people who truly mattered. Claire stood as Natalie's maid of honor, crying happy tears. Even Catherine showed up, her expression softening slightly as she watched her son's obvious happiness dot as they exchanged new vows, ones they had written themselves. Natalie reflected on the journey that had brought them here. She had agreed to a fake marriage out of desperation and practicality. She had found genuine love in the most unexpected place. The contract that brought them together had been torn up and replaced with something far more binding, a commitment born from choice, strengthened by trust, and sealed with love. "I promise to trust you with my heart," Natalie said, her voice steady despite her emotions, "to support your dreams as you've supported mine, to build a life with you based on honesty, respect, and love that grows deeper every day. I promise to be worthy of that trust," Julian replied, his voice thick with emotion. "To cherish you, challenge you, and choose you every single day for the rest of our lives." When they kissed as the sun set over the bay, Natalie knew that sometimes the best stories began with the most unlikely chapters. She had whispered trust on their wedding night, and Julian had proven himself worthy of that trust in every moment since. Their marriage had started as a business transaction, but it had transformed into the greatest love story of her life. And as they walked back down the beach hand in hand, surrounded by loved ones and facing a future bright with possibility, Natalie smiled, because she had learned that trust was more than just a word whispered in the dark. It was a choice made every day, a foundation built through actions, and a gift that, when given to the right person, could change everything forever.